Yeah, there's no such thing as a good cop. And I don't say that to personally attack any of you who may do that as a profession. I say that because it's simply the truth. There's no such thing as a good police officer, a good cop. And let me get into why that is. So with anything, it's important to talk about the history. So let's talk about the history of police officers, specifically here in America. If you didn't know already, they did start out as slave catchers. And after Reconstruction, when there was no more free labor allowed, they began to lock up Black folks for misdemeanor crimes and honestly no crimes at all. So they continued the free labor, which led to the mass incarceration and prison industrial complex. So now that we got that quick history lesson out the way, let's talk about policing for what it is. Policing is not simply a job. Policing is a system. And when you talk about what a system is, it's really hard to pick and choose which people within that system are good. Let's take slavery for an example. Yeah, there probably was a few slave masters who were a little decent to their slaves, but we wouldn't go around saying there are good slave masters, would we? No, because they participated in a system that allowed people to be sold for labor. Hello. But when we look at policing, we're so quick to pick and choose which police officers are good. And when we say they're good, what are we using as a merit? We're not talking about them as a person, because them as a person, they may be good people. They may actually have some decent people who work in the system of policing. That doesn't mean that they're a good cop, because by all standards, being a good cop would mean that you're actually going and telling on your fellow officers when they do something bad. And we all know what happens when cops actually out their fellow officers. They either get fired or they actually criminalize themselves. We've seen it time and time again. So the system of policing does not allow for good cops. A lot of the times people get so conflicted with the positive cop propaganda that we don't take the time to really look into how policing affects our communities. And when I say our communities, I mean communities of color or poor communities, because we all know that policing is for us. They're not policing communities of wealth and white communities. That's just statistically not happening. When we look at Black and brown neighborhoods, they're over-policed and underfunded. So, of course, there seems to be a lot more crime, when really it's just because there's hyper-surveillance in their neighborhoods. And let's not forget that typically these police officers don't actually live in that neighborhood. So when I say there's no such thing as a good cop, a good police officer, I mean that with every fiber of my being. Not just because I hate cops. I mean, I do. But when you look at a system, you as a singular person cannot uproot a system. So many people believe that, oh yes, I'm going to join the police force and change from the inside out. It's not possible. It is a system founded on racism. Okay? It's founded on racism. You alone cannot change it. And I don't say that to be discouraging. I want my people to be free from the shackles of thinking that we can change the system from the inside out. It just don't work like that, unfortunately. I know we all wish it do, but it don't. Policing is racist by nature, which is why the numbers look the way that they do. We can have all these reforms that we want to have, but at the end of the day, policing is meant to surveil Black people. Period. So with all that being said, please stop being so gullible when it comes to positive cop propaganda. This is a system, and the system is built off of racism. Period. Reform will do nothing to change the system of policing. It'll only make them more clever at the system of policing, which is why people like me fight for total and complete abolition of the system altogether. If you have any comments or concerns, put them in the comments below. Bye.